Left of the box. From Politico, Netanyahu pushes back on international concerns about an attack on Rafah. Those of you who say under no circumstance should we enter Rafah are basically saying lose the war, the Israeli prime minister said. So yes, after Israel has told everyone in the Gaza Strip you must move from the north to the south and targeted some of those escape routes and totally leveled northern Gaza, even after telling people, oh yeah, sure, you'll be able to return sometime. All that sort of stuff. It's like, go to the safe places in southern Gaza. And now they're being told to move from there as well because Hamas. And so, yes, evacuate Rafah. To where exactly? The mirror dimension? Like, that's all that's left at this point.
Well,
Like,
yeah. Also because like I highly doubt Egypt is gonna let that many people in, and it's right on the border.
well, it's not only that, even if they were to open up the border in that area, which I think Israel's wanting them to do, like just destroy the border or more or less there, the land that they're entering there is desert.
Right.
Like practically it's uninhabitable. So it's like, okay, you either stay in Rafah and get bombed or you get forced into the desert.
I remember I forget what year it was, but there was like another bombing campaign happening, and they were bombing in Rafah, and Egypt wouldn't open the border, and they were just like Egyptian soldiers just like shooting at like old ladies and kids there at the border. But Netanyahu is honestly like, I wonder what he is thinking is going to happen with his reputation after this war. Like, I wonder if he thinks like I'm probably going to jail in Israel, or like because he has no like real solidarity from any nation, like not like true solidarity. Um, and I'm just like, what do you think is going to happen after this situation? Like, you think that you're just going to be another like world leader and people are going to embrace you and embrace Israel? I think that Israel as a nation and Netanyahu specifically have completely destroyed whatever reputation or good faith they had on the world stage, damn near permanently at this point.
Yeah, I don't like I don't know what his well, I know what his end game is, what he wants, but after there's only so many people in Gaza he can kill.
Exactly.
So what happens after so if he's successful in his campaign, which is just a horrid thought, then what? Like does he think the people of Israel are going to appreciate him so much because now they're rid of Hamas for good and now they have all this new land to occupy and that he'll be raised up on a pillar or something and celebrated and then he doesn't have to worry about going to jail or like it's not going to happen like that.
No, no,
It
they're protesting him every day in
mhm.
Israel.
Like I get that he's hanging on to his position as long as he can because he knows as soon as he loses it, he's going to jail
Right.
for other crimes. But this is just kind of making it worse. It's kind of like so then when he's finally no longer in his position, then this just means there's so many other crimes he's going to be charged with.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I guess he did something with the courts to try to prevent that, but I don't know
Mhm.
if that's going to help him. But I've lived through and been around for many campaigns Israel against Hamas, um, and his idea is that the war is like the winning the war is eradicating Hamas, and that's impossible.
Mhm.
And me, like anybody that knows Israel's objectives in a war on Gaza is they're not targeting Hamas, they're targeting civilians.
Mhm.
Like that's what they're doing. They're targeting civilians. The Hamas people are not going to be like Hamas cannot get eradicated from bombing campaigns like that. Like that's just
Mhm.
not the way it works.
Well,
So
this is guaranteeing more attacks on Israel.
100%.
Like absolutely guaranteeing because the survivors of Rafah right now, how are you not radicalized by what's happened to you?
Right.
Like, it's just, they're guaranteeing that they're not going to be safe in Israel.
And also it's like if you, I mean, I don't know if this is the plan. I don't think so, but if they were planning to build some more settlements in Gaza, which they got rid of the settlements there in like 2005 or 2006, one of the two. If they were planning on building those again, like those people will be like in constant fear. Like there's no amount of military
Mm-hmm.
presence you can put in Gaza to protect any settlement there.
Mm-hmm.
And for sure, there's going to be more radicalization if they put settlements back in Gaza. So I don't know if they're going to do that. I feel like that's like so stupid.
Well,
Um,
they did that with the West Bank.
they did. But I'm also like, there's also a part of me that's thinking like, as I've been saying on Power Report for the last however many months now, geez, there is like a regional delight from the surrounding Arab nations of getting rid of Hamas in Gaza. Like they are excited for that, and they're not concerned about Palestinian civilian deaths if Hamas is not in control of Gaza. And I wonder if, whenever the end of this situation happens, it's hard to even conceptualize Hamas not being in charge, but if in some way they aren't, are Saudi Arabia and Egypt and UAE gonna pour so much like resources into Gaza that people don't get radicalized after
Mm-hmm.
this? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Um,
this whole thing, because it's like, they've flattened northern Gaza. They're
yeah,
working on flattening the rest of Gaza. Some of the land is pretty much uninhabitable right now, but the amount of work and construction and everything, like the amount of money to rebuild, like even if Israel decides to claim that land, what are they doing to themselves? Like they're guaranteeing radicalization, but also financial losses.
yeah.
It's
Israel
just.
claiming it is silly. Like Israel can't do anything with
Mhm,
it, really. But if Saudi Arabia, like
mhm,
from my perspective, and there have been some other people that have said it too. Like I think that Hamas launched these attacks to kind of to stop the peace talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Either that, or they saw those talks happening and like we're gonna be done for. We might as well go out with a bang. One of the two. But it doesn't seem like Saudi Arabia is gonna be like. I think they're still gonna go through with whatever they were doing with Israel. Like I
mhm,
feel like they're still gonna do it, and for sure that will include putting a lot of money into rebuilding whatever's been flattened in Gaza.
mhm.
Yeah, and I just wonder like what's gonna happen? Like
I
if
can't imagine. I can't imagine anyone wanting to live there, knowing you're building your homes on the corpses of the people.
they'll live there. I mean, it's been happening. Like
Mhm.
it's not the first time that
Yeah.
Israel has bombed Gaza, and I mean this is the worst one for sure. But it happened in 2014. It happened in 2008,
Mhm,
and there's been stuff in between those times. But like I just wonder,
mhm,
like, what's going to happen if Hamas isn't there and the Palestinian Authority takes control of Gaza and they're working with Saudi Arabia? You know, there's no like more Iranian influence in Gaza. They're working with Egypt, they're working with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and whoever else, Kuwait, and they start rebuilding Gaza. Like, who knows? Like, some parts of the West Bank are pretty nice. They could turn Gaza like that too.
mhm.
Like who knows?
Well, a little bit more from this article here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pushed back against alarm that's been raised by key allies, world leaders of aid agencies, as Israel prepares for a ground invasion of Rafah in Gaza. Those who say that under no circumstances should we enter Rafah are basically saying lose the war, keep Hamas there, Netanyahu said during an interview. He on Friday he announced he had ordered his military to prepare a plan to evacuate Rafah, a key corridor for humanitarian assistance in southern Gaza, where Palestinians have previously been told to flee for safety. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby warned the U.S. would not support Israel's assault on the region. Also, probably not going to do anything about it, warning that military operation would be a disaster for civilians there. In an interview with NPR, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, said in a military operation in the city cannot proceed under the current conditions. United Nations Secretary has similar expression. It's nice they're saying that now. So over 28,000 people so far have been killed by Israel's offensive in Gaza Strip, according to Gaza Hamas-controlled health ministry. Thousands have been injured, millions more have been displaced. At least 224 Israeli soldiers have been killed, according to Israeli military officials, in addition to the casualties suffered in Hamas incursion on October 7th. Sure, just got to throw that in there for some reason. But let's go here. From Ryan Grimm on Twitter. This government will live in infamy. 20 years from now, you won't be able to find a single person willing to admit they supported what the Israeli government did in late 2023 through 2024. If we go up to the statement here, from the Prime Minister's office, it's impossible to achieve the goal of a war eliminating Hamas by leaving 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah. Is there any proof that they're even there? And if so, so what? Like at this point. On the contrary, it is clear that intense activity in Rafah requires that civilians evacuate the areas of combat. Therefore, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the IDF and security establishment to submit to the cabinet a combined plan for evacuating the population and destroying their battalions.
Well, it's just evacuate where? Like,
Evacuate where? But then also they're going to have the excuse, well, Hamas is with the evacuees.
Well,
so
exactly.
then whatever they go to next,
Exactly.
well, Hamas is there too.
Exactly. So that's the thing. Like, and you saw that in the Iraq War. You see that in the wars all the time. They're blending in with the civilian population. And to be clear, like, yeah, some of those Hamas fighters are like, yeah, okay, we can't fight anymore. Let's just blend in with it. For sure. It's a guerrilla fighting force for the most part. So yeah, like, but it's just what the IDF is doing is not fighting a war. They're not fighting against combatants.
Mm-mm.
Like, they are targeting civilians. Like, I remember when like the fight against ISIS in northern Syria was happening, and for sure, I mean, it's a shame. Those ISIS fighters would literally go on top of a building and shoot at whatever. They know that after that, NATO plane, American plane is going to bomb that building, and there are hella civilians in that building. But that was their tactic. Like, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to shoot from here, then we're going to leave, and then y'all are going to kill the civilians, and then we're going to go film them. That's not even what Israel's doing. They're just like, oh, that's where the civilians are? Like, that's where the old ladies are?
Mm-hmm.
Bomb that.
Yeah. Bomb the hospital, bomb the people, shoot the people with the white flags carrying babies. Right. We're going to get into one of the civilian cases in just a moment. There is so much proof out there right now that they are targeting civilians. They've targeted journalists and their families. Like, there's so much proof out there of this, and yet, Canada will still be like, oh, we support Israel defending itself within the confines of, humanitarian law.
Why doesn't Israel support defending itself? Egypt told them that the attack by Hamas was going to happen. They were warned that attack was going to happen. Going to happen. American people have gone on TV and said, yeah, Egypt warned them, and whatever. So why didn't, like, I'm of the opinion now that Netanyahu let it happen. Like, they let it happen. Even like if they got snuck up on by Hamas or whatever, sure. Like, I mean, I'm trying not to ramble. It does suck on some level what Hamas did, because Hamas knows what's going to happen after. So then it just makes me wonder if they were just like, when Saudi Arabia and Israel are shaking hands, we're done for. So we got to just like go out with a bang. That's a part of me feels like that. Ultimately, whatever. At the end of the day, like when this conflict first happened, I was saying on Power Report, Israel is not concerned with defeating Hamas. Like, they're not. Israel, when they put those planes in the air, it's to bomb civilians.
Mm-hmm.
they want to take the civilians out.
Yeah.
It's genocidal. They don't want to kill everybody, but it is like a genocidal thing where they're like, let's lower the population a bit, quote unquote, cut the grass, like they like to say, or mow the lawn or something like that.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, like, you did this in 2014, you were killing people in 2021, and you didn't do much, obviously, because after that, Hamas is able to inflict this like crazy attack on you, and you're just like sitting on your hands. So obviously, you didn't do anything before. That's obvious because they target civilians.
No, nothing, absolutely nothing justifies what is happening right now. Like there's no.
No.
And this is why I get so upset with the Zionists right now, because it's like, oh, it's all about, keeping Israel safe and all. And it's like almost 30,000 people. For what?